Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Glendale Water and Power Commission meeting for August 7th, 2023. If we can start with roll call, please.
Before I proceed with the roll call, and for the record, Commissioner Fay will be joining our meeting at a later time. Commissioner Kadikian?
Here.
Commissioner Lowry?
Here.
Commissioner Peterson?
Here.
President Jasmadarian?
Here. Okay, on to the next item, consent items.
Item 2A, approval of the June 5th, 2023 meeting minutes.
Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? Okay, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I move. Second.
Okay, and the roll call, please.
Commissioner Kadikian?
Yes.
Commissioner Lowry?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
President Jasmadarian?
Yes. Okay, so next, GWP Commission and staff comments. Let's start with the commission.
I just want to encourage, I attended the IRP, that's the Integrated Resource Plan, about 2 weeks ago approximately. They had one of those public meetings. It was up at, where was that place? I forgot. Anyways, Spar Heights, that's right. And I would encourage everybody who is watching this or in the audience and who wants to have a say in how Glendale develops its resources is to attend these meetings. Very important questions are being asked as to what is priority to you. And if you don't attend what is important to you, whether it's environmental, cost, efficiency, whatever it is, it's not going to be heard. And then later on coming, complaining, advocating, which is your entire right, it just makes your job a whole lot more difficult. So I would encourage everybody from now to go and attend. I think there's one more coming up, a meeting. So maybe we can get an announcement so that whoever's watching this broadcast does attend those hearings. It's very important that your voice be heard and you participate in the process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Lau?
Yeah, I believe the next meeting is Saturday at Brand Library, 10 to 12.
Okay, Commissioner Peterson? And I have no comments, so staff comments.
Normally don't have comments, but I think I want to thank the residents of Glendale for conserving electricity during the heat wave. It was an extended heat wave, and we appreciated all the work that everybody did to be cognizant of that peak period, and we were able to come out with it pretty unscathed. There was some small outages, but that's just normal. But we appreciate everybody's effort into trying to conserve during the heat.
Okay, let's move on to reports.
The next item is 4A, Water Division Consumer Compliance Report.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Martin Manucharian, and today I'll be presenting the Consumer Confidence Report rule and the report we recently published in compliance with this rule. Each year, all water purveyors are required to produce and publish a report containing the previous year's sampling results. This is how we let our customers know about the work that we do to comply with the regulations that govern water quality and how we ensure the safety of the water that they use every day. We call this report colloquially the Annual Water Quality Report. This is the name that our customers will see on the document. This is what they'll see on the website. We have WQR, Water Quality Report 23, listed as the name for this year's report. Officially, the report is called the Consumer Confidence Report, and you may hear me call it the CCR during this presentation as well. The CCR was established by the United States Environmental Protection Agency as part of the Safe Drinking Water Act, and it's administered to us by the California State Water Resources Control Board's Division of Drinking Water via the Health and Safety Code and Title 22 of the California Code of Regulations. The report is composed of a number of required elements, such as the ones that you see on the screen. We're also given the opportunity to present some optional educational information, which I'll also discuss later on. I'll go into further detail into the required elements in the following slides. So the first element that we're required to provide to our customers, it's water system information. That includes a utility contact for if customers want to get a hold of someone with either concerns or questions. That happens to be me, and the number where I can be reached is available on the screen and in the report. We're required to provide information about participation opportunities, and that happens to be this meeting, and we provide details about the meeting and location, time, and all that. And we're finally required to provide information for non-English speaking populations, and essentially that is a statement in various languages in which we tell customers that the information in the report is important, and if they need someone to translate it, to go ahead and do that if they can't understand what we have. So the next piece of information that we provide is the various sources of our water. We do have a paragraph of text that discusses this information. But just this year, we added the graphic that you see on the screen, which summarizes some of the information. As you can see, we provide a visual breakdown of our available water supply in 2022, as well as some interesting information about our system underneath. And one fact that actually surprised me as well, as I was preparing the data, was that we collected and analyzed about 50,000 water quality samples in 2022. This is a testament to the hard work that our field techs do each and every day. The next element, the next piece of the CCR is definitions. There are a lot of technical terms, a lot of abbreviations as part of the document, as part of the report. And there are there's specific wording that we're required to use when defining these terms, and we provide that information in the report. In addition to what you see on the screen, we have a whole list of abbreviations that we also define. The next piece of information, which could be argued is the whole point of the report, is to provide customers with our sampling result data. We're required to report levels of detected regulated contaminants. Not all contaminants out there are regulated, but we're required to report the levels of detected regulated contaminants. And we're also encouraged, and we do report levels of detected unregulated contaminants, depending on certain factors. But the most important thing that customers can get out of all of these tables is the fact that we did not have any violations. Our water met and exceeded all of the state and federal regulatory standards as far as water quality. I get asked all the time, is our water safe to drink? That happens to be one of the most common calls that I get, and I'm happy to say that yes, it is. And as a Glendale resident, I happily drink Glendale tap water, and I prefer it over bottled water and filtered water. So. In addition to information, in addition to the tables and the results, we're also required to includes some specific language about a few different specific contaminants. The ones that apply to us, well, the one that specifically applies to us is nitrate. We do have nitrate in some of our local groundwater wells. That water gets blended before it actually reaches our customers. So the nitrate results are significantly below the maximum contaminant level, which is one of the terms that was defined a couple of slides ago. The language that we're required to use for nitrate is very specific, and we have that paragraph in the CCR. As far as lead, all utilities are required to include language about lead. In addition, utilities who have detected lead values in their system above a certain level are also required to add some additional language. Thankfully, we're not one of those utilities, so we include only the standard statement. We're also required to report our compliance with other drinking water regulations. This really should say we're required to report our non-compliance with other drinking regulations. There are a lot of regulations that govern water quality. If we had any violations of those regulations, we would be required to report them as part of the Consumer Confidence Report. I would have been happy to leave this page completely blank, but I didn't want to leave it completely blank. We did not have any violations in 2022, as in the previous years. I'm happy to report that to you as well. The last piece of information we're required to provide is educational information, specifically for people with compromised immune systems. That's a statement that we're required to include verbatim, and we have that in the report. We also include, as part of the optional information, information about our cross-connection control program, which is very important for keeping our water system safe. Information about our recycled water program. We have a pretty robust frequently asked questions section, which addresses a lot of the complaints and inquiries that we get from customers. And then we also include resources regarding water conservation. Finally, the report is due by July 1st of each year. We used to print the report and mail it out to everyone. Over the last few years, DDW has allowed electronic delivery, and we've taken advantage of that. We send out a notification of the upcoming publication via a bill insert and GWP newsletter, and then we publish the report before July 1st each year. The current report is now available online at the website on the screen, and also hard copies can be provided upon request. I'll leave this page up if any viewers want to write this information down, and I'll take any questions that you may have at this time.
Any questions from the commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Lowry.
Thank you very much for the great report. You said there was about 50,000 tests done each year. Can you give us just kind of a quick overview of how those tests are taken?
Sure. So we have water quality technicians that collect samples throughout our system from the distribution system as well as storage facilities and wells. In the distribution system, we have dedicated sampling stations, which some of you may have seen driving around. They're kind of mixed in how they look, but the ones that would be more recognizable are stainless steel cylinders almost that open, and we're able to grab samples directly from the water mains. And we use those samples to comply with the revised total coliform rule. We take samples from our above-ground steel tanks. We take samples from our underground reservoirs, as well as the wells. Some samples go to a contract laboratory to be tested. Some samples get tested in the field by our samplers. And all of that amounts to the 50,000 samples. I mean, as part of that 50,000, a lot of them are repetitive. It's not 50,000 unique samples, it's 50,000 samples overall. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Does GWP do any in-home testing?
We do in-home testing for certain
Such as lead or
constituents, yeah.
something?
You know, things like chlorine, ammonia nitrite, anything that could be tested with a handheld device we'll do in-house. We also do some laboratory testing, but it's for essentially the same constituents. The handheld device just saves us a lot of time in the lab. Everything else, microbiological sampling, you know, VOCs, SOCs, everything gets done by the laboratory,
Okay.
contract laboratory.
I was just thinking that, you know, Glendale is such an old city, has so many old buildings and homes, and I was just thinking in terms of lead and things like that. How can, you know, how can we feel safe in, you know, in the water that we're drinking? I know you're testing it in the field. I'm just concerned. Maybe I've got lead pipes in my 1932 home and shouldn't be
It sounds like
drinking
I misunderstood your question a little bit. So we don't do testing from customers' homes per se. The lead and copper rule is designed such that those samples do come from customer homes, but it's from qualifying homes that meet certain requirements that would put them at greater risk of having lead in their system. It's properties built within a certain time frame. As far as lead in our sources, our results are continuously non-detect, but yeah, and then we've done sampling at schools as part of a state program a couple of years ago, but we don't do ad hoc testing from customer residences. Does that answer your question?
It does.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Again, excellent report. I just want to, the 50,000 number, sometimes things that seem awfully good to be true that's 137 tests a day, every day, 365 days a year. Do we even have 137 testing sites?
We have we don't have 137 testing sites, but we do multiple tests at each site. It's not like one test at each site.
Like you have one of the reports here shows a list of various kinds of contaminants that we can do. So each one of those counts as a test, even if we did a single sample. So if you have 20 contaminants you're checking for out of a single sample, you're saying you took one sample, but that's 20 tests. Is that?
Yes, that's correct.
That seems to make a little more
That's
sense. 'Cause
correct.
otherwise, I was
Yeah.
thinking if you're taking 167 samples a day, every day, you might have a budget opportunity there otherwise. The other number that just jumped out at me a little bit was, you know, in the detected contaminants, there was like 3 areas where, looking at our water plants, the pH level seemed kind of on the base side, kind of in the 8.5 to 9 range. That seems a little bit.
Let me open to that page. Yes, so some of that is what we're getting from Metropolitan Water District. And then the other one is the water produced at our Glendale Water Treatment Plant. We do see higher levels of pH at some of those locations. Yeah.
Do we intentionally make the water kind of base when it comes out of the plant, knowing that we have some acidic elements over the transport network, so that by the time it gets to the end user, it's, at about 7?
I don't know if MWD does that. I know that there is some manipulation of the pH that happens as part of our treatment process, but I don't know if they do that with the effluent water in mind. I couldn't accurately answer that question.
Thank you.
Thank you for the report. The table in the column which says Glendale Water Treatment Plant, so that is the Glendale where it treats particular water, right? And then distributes it over to the customers as potable water. That's separate and different from the recycling treatment plant, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And so when we're talking about the Glendale water treatment plant, we're just talking about the water that we are kind of mixing with everything else, treating it and sending it out to the customers. Is that correct?
That's correct. The Glendale Water Treatment Plant is specifically refers to the 9 wells that feed into the Glendale operable unit and yes, so that's groundwater that's treated and put into the system.
Right. Is that water that comes from MWD as well, that gets treated all together? Or
We don't treat MWD water separately. We use MWD water to blend with our local source water.
Okay, that's the question. Thank you.
First, I'd like to apologize for being a few minutes late. Sorry I missed the beginning of your presentation. It seems like this is an area that's very strictly driven by regulatory compliance, and it seems like this is a very prescriptive format for the report that's meant to answer all of that. So a couple of questions around that. Are there any changes in the regulations that are coming down the pike that we should be aware of, or that maybe give you cause for concern or keep you up at night?
Keep me up at night? No, I wouldn't say they keep me up at night. I think we're looking at a potential maximum contaminant value for chromium-6 that's coming down. And we're well within the expected level, so that doesn't keep me up at night at all. I believe there will be some further regulation of PFAS chemicals, but that doesn't keep me up at night at all either. I'm very confident in our utility's ability to provide safe water.
And just for folks who aren't familiar with the acronym, would you mind explaining what PFAS is as maybe a category?
Well, you're asking me to pronounce what...
You don't have to spell it out, but what is it?
It's an industrial chemical. It's present in like fire suppression chemicals and I believe some cookware, things like that. It's very commonly found in our environment in general.
And my understanding is the concern about PFAS is that it never really breaks down, right? It's kind of a forever chemical.
That's correct. It is. We are able to remove it though, as part of the treatment process.
Great. I'm glad we're a step ahead of those.
Yeah.
And then from a non-regulatory perspective, just from like a general management or operations perspective, and what would you say is like the biggest challenge for your team, where you're running these samples or working with labs, or what is it that you have to spend a lot of your mental energy thinking about day to day?
Well, I mean, one thing that came up as part of the COVID crisis was issues with deliveries. It's the same as almost any other sector, essentially. Purchasing products and knowing that they're going to get to you in time, especially when what we do is very time sensitive and we have to do the things that we do in order to maintain compliance with all the regulations. I think that's been the biggest challenge over the last few years. getting our sampling, reagents and things like that in on time. But we've found ways to manage it, ordering things a little bit earlier, and so, yeah.
So if there's a change we need to make on that around, holding bigger inventories or something like that, I hope you'll come back and let us know.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you.
So one quick question regarding PFAS. Is it in our drinking water now? Is there any detection of that, or is that?
It is not in our drinking water. There are detections in some of the operable unit wells, but our treatment plant picks that up, and the treated water no longer has the chemicals in there.
Okay, great, thank you.
Pleasure.
So if there's no more questions, the next report, please.
Our next item is 5B, customer data and engagement.
It's working. Okay, thank you. Hi, my name is Atine Hartunian. I'm the Public Benefit Charge Marketing Manager. I'm going to do a hopefully brief presentation on our customer engagement and then invite two of our program vendors to talk more about customer engagement and data use for our peak savings program and our O-Power Home Energy Report program. This is just a quick overview of where our section is located. This is GWP's management team, as you already know, comprised of the 5 sections you see here. My group, which is myself currently, and Varsinik Avadisian, the community outreach assistant, we report directly to Scott Mellon, the assistant general manager. These are the areas that we focus on as part of our marketing and outreach and customer engagement. And in the next slides, I will show you exactly how we go about working on what our focus is. So for marketing and communications, here's what we do. For marketing, obviously we develop marketing campaigns and plans specific to our programs and our services, and whatever is involved in a marketing campaign, such as collateral development, writing content, design of materials, storytelling, media relations. We work with all sections of Glendale Water and Power that need customer engagement, marketing, or public affairs assistance, and we provide that assistance. Each campaign is program specific, and I will get more into the specifics in the next slides. Our customer engagement and public affairs section that we work with, we develop outreach plans that focus on customer education and determine our target audience and what messaging we want to focus on and streamline those messages. We also address escalated situations that require more information or outreach. For example, our tree cutting program, scheduled outages or easement issues, and we also work with our legal department on those issues. Stakeholder management includes developing advisory groups when necessary and engaging in community meetings, and this might be project-specific or overall GWP-related, such as integrated resource plan or rate increases. We work with Metropolitan Water District on promoting their programs and conservation messaging, and also with neighboring utilities that are member agencies. For media relations, we write and send out press releases, arrange interviews with the media, and provide key message talking points to our management team to conduct their interviews and field media calls. We also prepare written responses to media-related questions. We have established great media contacts within Glendale and outside that we work with to cover GWP-related news and rely on them to also help disperse GWP-related information. For social media management, we develop and upload all of the content on our social media platforms. Our overall city policy limits us from two-way communication. However, we do respond to direct messaging, and we'll post general responses if we see the same questions are being asked. For our website, we maintain and monitor all of GWP's website content and 2 project websites, which is the biogas and the Grayson repowering projects. For our newsletters, we produce and send out the From the Source bi-monthly digital newsletter and an internal employee newsletter. For events, we organize and plan events for GWP and represent GWP at all community events. For employee engagement, we prepare key message points for management for speeches, presentations, summaries, for city reports, messaging, for mayor speeches and presentations. The following are customer touch points. These are the tools we use to engage with our customers. So this slide focuses on how we engage with our customers. Depending on the type of outreach or campaign, we could utilize all or a combination of these things. For social media engagement, listed are the numbers of followers on our social media platforms. We are very active on social media, posting content daily, and we monitor the sites and maintain constant communication even on weekends and evenings, especially if there's power outages. If certain questions are posted, we direct them to the correct sections within GWP. For our website that I mentioned, we update daily with news information and highlights. We also have our live outage information map on our website. We receive communication through the contact us section, and we field inquiries wherever necessary. For our customer portal, customers can use our website to access their bills, to pay and view their bills, and their usage information. Customers have 24/7 access to their portal. We upload messaging as necessary to promote programs and services to the portal. This system also sends out a welcome letter to all new customers with links to GWP programs. Through our outage management system, we send out texts, emails, and automated phone calls for electric and water outages. Customers can also sign up to receive these text alerts specific to the area that they live in. For email, we use this method most to send out from our source newsletter and other important messaging, such as upcoming meetings, project updates, emergency information. We have about 101,000 subscribers to our email system, and we always encourage customers to sign up. The use of direct mail we use very limited to send out notifications about upcoming planned outages, construction information, or program info. If we can avoid direct mail because postage is expensive, we try to, but usually direct mail does seem to work best at times. For example, this past month, we sent out the summer readiness mailer, which I'm sure all of you have received, and you will see on the next slide. We made a choice to mail this to all of our customers since it has such important information about the energy shortfalls this summer and next. For advertising, depending on our budget, we will focus on advertising such as Beeline Bus stops, streetlights, and online newspapers. We also sponsor community events and develop advertising and signage for events. For the bills, we develop inside and outside bill messaging and coordinate bill inserts and bill inlines, which are extra printout as part of the bill that includes marketing information. This also helps save on postage costs because it goes in along with the customer bills. And if customers are part of e-bill where they don't receive a paper bill, then what we do is we will post whatever inserts we have posted on that portal. At community events, we represent GWP and also oversee GWP's event planning and community meeting planning. We are currently working on the Integrated Resource Plan Town Hall meetings and the Stakeholder Advisory Group. We are in constant communication with our customer service department because they are the ones that receive customer inquiries. So if something needs to be updated or communicated, we are made aware, and it goes both ways. If we put anything out, we know it might increase calls, so we want to ensure that customer service staff is well aware to address any questions or concerns. We also develop hold messaging on the phone line so that customers can learn about our programs or important messages while they're waiting to reach a customer service rep. We recently added TVs in the customer service area. Customer service recently added TVs in their lobby area. So what we developed are videos that are on a loop, so when customers are waiting to meet with staff, they could watch information on GWP's programs and services. For our field staff, these are electric and water crews. They inform us of larger outages or work that will block streets or driveways, and we develop postcards to mail out and utilize our outage management system for messaging. With our business support services, we develop our targeted mailing lists for outreach. And with GTV6, which is our local production team, we develop PSAs, videos about our projects and programs, and conservation messaging as necessary. With our program vendors, which you will hear in a few minutes, we have the ability to access their customer dashboards and information and see what types of messaging is going out to our customers. Our focus is to engage, educate, and inform our customers about our programs and our services. The data portion of customer segmenting is usually focused on our DER programs, and with that, our two vendors will be presenting how they utilize customer data to inform and engage and enroll customers in our programs. Although we work with PBC to increase program enrollment at times, our customer segmentation doesn't always involve usage data, but more about customer geography, household type, and et cetera. These are some examples of our print marketing collateral. As I mentioned, in the top left corner is our summer readiness mailer that was mailed to all customers this last month. Below is a postcard about low-income programs that was included as a bill inline. Below is a brochure on all of our customer programs that we use as bill inserts and we distribute at events. And then at the right is a type of advertising we did for water conservation. These are examples of digital and social media content that we post, power outage information. When there's a power outage happening, we tend to post information about the outage and the duration. And then we also post tips about heat waves that are coming up and ways customers can conserve energy. And at the far right is a sample of our From the Source newsletter. So we measure and market our programs and as much as we can, and this helps us in developing new campaigns or changing up our campaign if necessary. It helps us see our reach and determine what we can change or improve to make a bigger impact and interact with more customers. We look at things such as enrollment numbers and see if they increase, or if we're promoting or launching a program to see how many enrolled. Sometimes we need to scale back our marketing for programs because there's too much backlog and it creates a queue and we don't want customers to keep waiting. Or if we run out of budget, we don't want them to have false hope that they're going to be part of the program. We track open rates of our emails and see how many click-throughs there are or how many short links we have provided that we track and develop, and we see how many clicks they get. We compare open rates and click rates on all emails, newsletters, and social media that tells us what information customers seek or are interested in. We receive Google Analytic reports from our IT department, so we know where our customers go, how long they're on a page, how many times they've clicked through, and how they're interacting with our sites. And if we get emails through our contact us method through our website, we know that a customer couldn't find a specific page, so we try to go back and try to fix that issue so they don't have to go directly to contact us and they can find the information on our website quicker. For our programs, we have biweekly calls to see the effectiveness of campaigns, and our vendors share with us their open rates or saturation levels for mailings, et cetera. We have them run reports on specific campaigns or outreach they have done, and they can also talk more about this when they present. So what's next for my group? Currently, the Smart VX, which is a customer service tool that we will soon have, will provide pre-recorded and personalized videos that will assist customers with information on how to see, understand, and pay their bills, and how to sign up for programs. We will assist the business support services in launching this tool and provide customer education about how to use it. Secondly, the Silver Blaze upgrade to the portal involves us assisting with the customer-facing text marketing messages that can be used when customers go into the portal to view their usage or to pay their bill. Customers will also be able to download their interval data. We will assist the business support services again in launching this tool and provide customer education. So how do our customers reach us or engage with us? These are the following ways. Obviously, not all customers follow us on social media, but we'd like to encourage them to if they can. And all the information we post is always posted on our website. And customers can always sign up to receive our newsletter and any online emails that are information that we distribute, especially during power outages or any type of emergency situation. Customers can also email our customer service department, or if they're interested in conservation programs, they can also email our conservation group. I'm happy to answer any of the questions after my presentation, but I've also invited Jessica Aldis from Oracle Opower to talk about our Home Energy Report program, and Kyle Brighton, Program Manager, and Katie Pearson, Manager of Client Marketing from Franklin Energy, to share with you information about our peak savings program. So I can call them up after I address any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you, Atinay. Are there any questions by the commissioners?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for the report. I do have some questions with regards to customer touchpoint tools of engagement. It says Facebook 2,600, Instagram 1,598. Are these the number of followers? Right. Those
Yes.
numbers seem to me low, given the number of population we have in Glendale. So I was wondering if you have any programs of increasing these, including doing some advertisement on Facebook, such as sponsored screens and such,
Yes.
just to promote that information. And so I think it should be a goal of increasing these numbers. Those are just way too low for us. With that in mind, do you have some sort of a breakdown of how much percentage of your advertising budget do you use for social media as opposed to print materials and mailing as such?
I don't have a breakdown of it, but we don't have a much budget, so we try to utilize it as best as we can. We normally don't do online advertising. If it's program related, then our program vendors do that, and they can talk about that. But as far as going back to social media, just, we will boost posts and we will boost on Facebook as well to get more followers. And a lot of times our customers aren't always following us, but they're aware that we're online. So they'll send us a direct message and then we'll try to direct message them back, and we find that they're not following us, but they have access because they've checked our sites for information such as outage information. So, that's how we know our customers still can access our social media platforms, but not having to be a follower. They could still access it.
So for example, with regards to the IRP messaging that's going out at this point, is your department handling that messaging, or is it the vendor which came and provided the presentation?
Our department's handling it, and we actually have not used any advertising. We've done direct mail, we've done social media, and the direct mail that we did, we actually limited to customers. We segmented to those customers that have no email address registered with us. So we kept our postage levels low. We've mailed about 20,000 postcards. All of the other outreach we've done has been through social media, through our website.
Is there a reason why there hasn't been a social media advertising? I mean,
Oh, like we boosted our posts, yes.
okay.
Yes, we have done that. But as far as print advertising or billboards or any type of material advertising, no, we have not done. So it's just been strictly through social media.
So how do you determine what kind of money you're going to set as budget for this IRP reach out program? How does that work? Is it something when city council hires these independent vendors to propose something, at the same time they provide some sort of budget to you, or does it just come from your general budget to deal and do the outreach that you need to do?
Most of the time, it comes from our general budget to do advertising. If we do have a vendor, then they also have a specific advertising and marketing budget related to that. It just depends on how the contracts are negotiated. So for the IRP, no, it wasn't negotiated that they spend money on any type of advertising or any type of outreach. That was specific to us. And so we determine the types of outreach that we want to do and how much money we want to spend based from our budget.
Okay. I would strongly encourage on items such as the IRP, where it's critical that you get feedback from people, from the resident, is whenever there's a negotiation of some sort of a contract with a vendor, get yourself some independent budget of your own and use it to reach, because I went to that IRP meeting and the turnout was good, but it was limited in the people who have a particular interest. And I want everybody to know, and whether they go or not go, that's on them. But at least we did our job in
Right.
getting the word out as much as possible. And money gets everything done, so get the budget.
Okay.
Okay? That's my suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments?
Thanks for the presentation. So it sounds like one of the takeaways is direct mail is the most effective, but it's expensive. So we have to be really selective or targeted in how we use that.
We try to, yes. But sometimes we will put our money where we have to and do a direct mail piece so that we ensure every customer that we want to contact has received it.
And you mentioned there's the ability to segment, and if there was something that was important and justified a direct mail campaign, but you didn't want to blanket the whole city in flyers, you could say, we're just going to send it to these people. I think you said those that don't have an email address, for example.
Yeah, we can segment it.
So what are the other ways that we do segmentation of customers?
So for any type of email, for example, if we want to promote our off-peak charging program for EVs, we'll contact customers that we know have applied for our EV rebates. If we've worked with EV contractors, we know that they have done a segmented list as well to provide information on number of sales in Glendale and who they are. So those are the types of ways we'll segment it. And then if we want to do we did a low-income mailer, as I mentioned. So we took all of our customers that are currently on our low-income programs, and we took them out of that list, and we provided information in the bills specific to those customers that are not enrolled in programs. So those are the ways that we look to see what customers are, through our customer database, what they're a part of, what programs they're a part of or participated in, and that way we can find out how to reach them for specific programs or messaging or things like that.
Does that customer database also include like customers' consumption? Like if certain customers use a lot of power during peak periods, they might go on a list for, here's ways to reduce your peak load or something like that?
I'm not too specific about the peak loads and tracking them and do they go into a certain area. If we run a report to see the higher usage, yes, we could see who's using that. Same along with water, we can also see that. That's only if we ask for the system to do that. We don't flag them as it's happening. It's only if we're starting an inquiry into it.
But I can imagine somebody gets a surprise bill that's, more than 20% more than the same period last year. They might be wringing their hands and say, I wish there was something I could do about this. That's a good time to give them a message about, HVAC retrofit rebates or something like that, right?
And actually, O-Power, we'll talk about that in a second. They do have a system of where you're trending higher in your usage and spending, that they will send you an email saying that you're trending higher, that you should look at how you're using electricity. So that's where we rely on some of our vendors to provide that information where we don't have the capability to do so.
Great.
Just trying to understand that if, is your department also responsible, talked about you give out notifications or communication with regard to pending outages?
Yes.
Do we have a separate emergency communication, or is that integrated into what you do?
We do have our emergency outage management system. We can use it as emergency or just as general outage communication. So if, for example, if we're going to talk about rolling outages, we do not have the capability to inform all customers, given the amount of calls and phone calls that the outage management system can do, but we can send out text messaging as well as emails prior to planned outages and scheduled outages. As depending on the type of rolling outage, we could possibly do that as well. But it is used for emergency purposes and non-emergency purposes. So if we have a planned outage, a lot of times customers will get a postcard stating that they have a planned outage coming up, and a week before the planned outage, they'll get an email, a text, and a phone call, an automated phone call.
Do you know what system we use for that?
It's what it's called, Data Voice? Data Voice or outage management system, yes. Thank
I
you.
know that the state has purchased and made available to public agencies the RAVE system, which allows you to communicate both emergency kind of things all the way up through sort of a marketing element, and lets you integrate through various different platforms, but particularly through cell phones. As an example, you can send out notifications. So if you had, say, an unplanned outage that was in a given area, you can actually go and send out a text message that will be transmitted from a designated set of cell towers that cover that area. So it's a way to be able to maybe more dynamically, and since it's free, it's something that I know our district, we were using Blackboard as our emergency notification system, and because the state has already gone ahead and paid for this, I think it may apply at the municipality level, because I believe that we're integrating with
Okay,
our
we can look
local
into that.
municipality. So
Yeah. What was it called again?
RAVE, R-A-V-E, it's really, really amazing dynamic system.
Okay.
So everything from very emergency, and you could integrate it then potentially with Glendale Police, et cetera. So,
Okay, thank you.
May I add one more thing? Sorry. I just want to encourage you, whenever there's future negotiations to get something done in the city and there's a requirement that there'll be some sort of an outreach, your department advocate directly to city council as to what needs and how much money you need to get that job done. Sometimes you're probably in the background and you don't get your voice heard, but whether through Mr. Young or anybody else, somebody should say, and our communication department believes we need this much dollar to reach out this many people for whatever you're trying to say. So that's my suggestion.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if you want to introduce the
Sure.
vendors.
Yes, so first up would be Jessica Aldis from O-Power. And then let me give you the clicker. You're welcome.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thanks for having me here today. My name is Jessica Aldis with Oracle. I am the account executive working with the Glendale Water and Power team for the O-Power Behavioral Program. The goal of my presentation today is to provide you some insight into the behavioral program, the outcomes that Glendale Water and Power has achieved, and the feedback from your residents here in Glendale. And I'm really excited to say in my time working with GWP that the results have been extremely positive and the team has achieved the energy efficiency savings that they've put forth with this behavioral program. And your residents are very engaged, which is really exciting to see working myself across the state of California with a lot of municipalities. So the goal of the behavioral program is first and foremost to serve your customers and increase overall satisfaction with Glendale Water and Power, and to achieve energy efficiency savings, which contribute to GWP's overall energy efficiency goals, as well as deliver some peak savings during some of those hotter days that you guys experience here in the summer. And in addition, we want to use these communications in a way to increase overall awareness of the broader energy efficiency programs that Glendale offers and increase participation with your customers. So as it relates to the O-Power communications, this is a software as a service. It is a white labeled software as a service, so your customers do not see the O-Power name or Oracle anywhere on the communications. This is branded and labeled with GWP's logo and coloring. And the communications are sent from a customer engagement platform to provide consistency across all communications that your customers receive. And starting here from left to right, you'll see an image of the Home Energy Report program. There is a smaller image here of the proactive alert, the high bill alert, the online electric usage portal, the solar update notifications, and then the weekly electricity update. So I will provide insight into each of these communications, the outcomes that Glendale has been able to achieve, and some results from the recent customer survey that was completed towards the end of 2022. Before we go into the specific communications, I would like to celebrate the success of the behavioral program that Glendale Water and Power has achieved. This program specifically started with the Home Energy Report program back in 2009, and since that time, Glendale Water and Power has achieved 88 gigawatt hours of energy efficiency savings from behavioral action alone from its residents. So this is a testament that your community wants to be part of the solution. They want to be committed and participate in our clean energy future. And I'm really excited to be here today and share these results. So what do these gigawatt hours equate to? That is slightly over 12,000 homes electricity use for an entire year. So really having a wonderful impact for the community here through behavioral action. If we take a snapshot of just this last fiscal year from July 2022 to June 2023, Glendale was able to save just over 7,200 megawatt hours of energy efficiency savings from this program. And the average customer bill savings is about $28 per year from behavioral action alone. This behavioral program makes up to 40 to 50% of the overall energy efficiency savings from Glendale's broader energy efficiency portfolio. So to dive into the home energy report, many of you may be familiar with this and may actually even receive the home energy report. This report is designed to engage customers and increase overall awareness of your energy consumption in your home and how you compare to your neighbors. Are you using energy efficiently, or do you have a little room for growth? And you can see here the image on the right. This is actually a refreshed experience that Glendale started sending out maybe over a year ago now. You see the colors are a little bit more bold in the upper right-hand corner. There's a fair, good, and great. This particular customer was great as far as how they used energy in their home compared to their neighbors. And then it provides some insight into what other actions could this customer take to save energy. On the bottom of the report, it also delivers or drives the customer back to the web portal where they can fill out an online audit and tell Glendale a little bit more about their home profile, which then allows the system to surface the most relevant savings targets in that next report period. So currently, up to 54,000 residential homes in Glendale's community receive the home energy report, and those reports are sent both via paper on a bi-monthly cadence and through email monthly. With this new refresh report experience, we also are able to provide more segmented experiences. So we have different versions for different types of customer segments. For example, low-income customers are going to receive different types of messaging, no-cost or low-cost savings tips versus some other single-family homeowners that may be in a different category, where we're going to drive them to the marketplace and recommend purchasing some efficient products. In addition, this is a great opportunity to deliver targeted marketing to increase overall awareness of other programs. So on the print report, you have the front page, which I just reviewed, and on the back, this is where the marketing modules are inserted. So you can see the example here. We're promoting the smart thermostat. We want customers to understand if they purchase a smart thermostat that Glendale offers a peak savings program. We want to encourage them to enroll in that peak savings program so that we can continue to encourage them to save not only all the time, but during those peak summer days. Overall, the average savings per household from the home energy report is 2.8%. And I'm particularly excited about the recent results of the customer survey in the fall of 2022. You have very strong readership, which means your customers are highly engaged. 91% of customers said that they read the report, which is really exciting considering how long you've been sending the home energy report. It tells us, as being in the industry and working with multiple utilities, that your customers trust Glendale Water and Power and they want to understand more about what they can do to save. In addition, customers are motivated to reduce their usage, and 33% of them said they specifically remember taking energy savings actions. We included a few quotes here around, this was directly from the customer survey. We ask a lot of open-ended questions, and then we give customers the opportunity to add in different comments. And it's really great to see customers saying that they continue to like receiving the report. They like being compared and seeing that report month over month, so they know if the actions that they're taking are working and helping them save. And then in addition, it's also great to see them articulate what they did, what actions did they take to save, and lowering their water heater or installing a programmable thermostat. So that was the home energy report. We have a few other outbound communications, part of the behavioral program. These communications are the proactive alerts. There's actually two types of proactive alerts that we send to residents. We have the high bill alert, and the high bill alert is a proactive communication that I think we're all well aware of in how we receive alerts when we're trending to a higher than normal bill. That is exactly what this communication does. It tells customers when they're trending to receive a higher than normal bill. It's a triggered alert from the same billing period of the previous month. It provides them with insights into their energy consumption. So you can see on the top, your use is projected to be 38% higher in this billing period, and then it shows this is higher than the same bill period of the previous month. And because Glendale has invested in AMI meters, smart meters, it also breaks down the usage by morning, afternoon, and evening, and shows the customer how much they're using in those particular time blocks. This is also very helpful when you're then sharing savings tips with the customer, and they can correlate their behaviors back to the savings tips and when they're using energy at that certain time of day. The high bill alert is actually sent early enough in the billing cycle that the customer has the opportunity to make behavioral changes so they can potentially mitigate receiving that high bill in general. So it's a really great way to engage that customer earlier in their billing cycle, provide them with savings tips. And this particular communication is a little bit newer in the behavioral hope program in the aspect that it is now auto-enrolled, so it's available up to 50,000 residents. And those emails, this is an email communication only. And it was great to see the residents have feedback on that they found the high bill alert to be quite valuable. The second weekly electricity update, this is also an email communication. This communication is designed really to strengthen customer satisfaction. It's not comparing the customer to anybody else, it's comparing them to themselves week over week. What does my energy consumption look like? How am I trending? And it provides some tips for what the customer can do to save. Customers also really like these communications, with 65% of customers appreciating and liking the new information. Since these are purely digital, we know that a lot of customers read these communications on their mobile devices or their tablets, so the formatting of the communication automatically adjusts, and it's intended that the customer can quickly scroll through and get all the data that they need about their personal usage and the recommendations for savings tips that Glendale provides them. I'm going to shift gears a little bit here to focus on solar. We recently worked with Glendale to help support your solar customers. You have quite a few residents that have invested in rooftop solar, and we want to celebrate the fact that they've made those clean energy choices. This particular communication offers personalized insights through an outbound email communication around the customer's investment of their rooftop solar. It orients them to how their bill is going to change now that they've invested in rooftop solar, and provides them with continued savings tips, as well as driving them back to the usage portal, which is available to all 2,500 current solar customers that have rooftop solar. And then as more interconnections happen, that experience on the online electric portal automatically evolves. So if you don't have rooftop solar today and you access the portal, you don't see your net production and your net consumption. You're just seeing your standard AMI data on that portal for usage. So you can see here on the web that it's providing the customer, the green bars under the line is showing their net energy produced versus the blue lines above is the net energy used, and then providing bill savings in comparison to what are you spending today on average versus prior to when you prior to investing in rooftop solar. In addition, the online electric usage portal is available to all residents at all times. That is a tab on the Glendale Water and Power portal and directs customers to see their usage. The usage tables will filter by bill view, or you can toggle it to annual view. This provides insight into monthly and daily usage. You see the weather trend line here. This was specifically designed to help customers understand when they're using more. It may likely be attributed to higher temperatures. And then there's a few other options here. This is the usage view, but you can toggle to the energy cost view. And then, of course, how do you compare to similar homes within your community? And then the upper right-hand corner, you see you could click through to ways to save. And those ways to save are intelligently retargeted for the customer. So if you as the customer have already said you've done this savings tip, that will no longer surface. That next best energy savings tip will surface for you. In addition, you can see a snapshot here of the highest day of use. This gives customers kind of a visual. What were my highest use days for that billing period? The web portal also includes the home energy audit. This is a customer home profile audit that the customer fills out. And a big part of the home energy report is to encourage customers to fill out that home energy audit. So we want to find out more about their home dwelling, the square footage type, how many occupants are in the home. And it asks a series of questions. It maybe takes 3 to 5 minutes. And then it will disaggregate based on their responses, what are their top 3 energy usage in the home, and pair that with specific savings tips to help them save energy. And oftentimes those tips tie back to broader energy efficiency programs inside of Glendale's EE portfolio. And that is the overall scope of the behavioral program, and I'm happy to take some questions.
This slide, any questions?
Just a quick observation. I noticed that you have the slides as restricted and confidential. Obviously, we're a Brown Act covered meeting. This is all public. And so I know that a lot of contracts will stipulate in there that there's confidentiality clauses, and if it's been identified by its notification that it's confidential and we disclose it, then it's a violation of that. So we could just make sure that we're not going to be held to a violation of any confidentiality clauses, because this has got to be open.
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks very much for the report. A couple of quick questions. You said $28 savings per customer. Is that mostly water or power, or do you have a breakdown on typically what that is?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. Our program is just focused on electric, so that is focused on electric savings.
Okay. You said 91% of the people of the customers read the report. That seems extraordinarily high. I don't know how you get 91% of the people to do anything, but can you tell me how you got to that number?
Absolutely, and it would seem really high too, right, if you think of the entire population of the community. For clarification, it was 91% of those folks that we surveyed as part of Home Energy Report recipients that said that they had high readership, the 91%. So I think the survey went out to about 3,000 residents, not the full service population.
Okay, okay. Also, 2,500 solar customers. And I believe in Glendale, we have 22,000 homes? 36,000?
There's 54,000 residential customers. That's what the report says.
I think there's 78,000 residential meters, and I think there's 22,000-ish single-family residents.
Okay. So, I mean, if we have 22,000 single-family residences, and, I mean, I assume most of these 2,500 solar customers are individual homes. That sounds like about 10%.
We're proud of that number.
I know, and I bring that up because in the meetings with the solar initiative, we're talking about being at 2%, and I know that must include multifamily, but Glendale has a real high amount of multifamily customers, I would think, compared to other cities. It seems to me that we're doing better than I thought with 2,500 out of 22,000.
Our AGM of Finance, Craig Keenan, and his group did a remarkable job, and we've been doing this, well, not we, they have been doing this for many, many years. So, yeah, I think that we're doing a remarkable job in getting the solar out. So when people think that we're not doing anything and that we're supposed to be very active now, there are a lot of solar installations that have already been done, so we're reducing the amount of single-family residents that we can target.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the report. So AI seems to be the most common trend nowadays. There's companies like Palantir, you may be familiar with them. They're competitors of Oracle in certain areas. Definitely not in the water and power. I think they're more into defense. But is your company, Oracle, employing any AI technologies to find relationships for different things that might assist us now or in the future? Without disclosing things, I guess.
Thank you for the question. As most people know, Oracle is a very large publicly traded company, and we have lots of applications both on-premise and in the cloud. As it relates to the O-Power software as a service and your behavioral program, we do leverage artificial intelligence to help surface the right savings tips to the right customers in that key moment that matters. And I think the high bill alert is a great example of that key moment that matters, using data to trigger an alert when a customer is on track to receive a higher than normal bill. The threshold is 30% higher than the previous year, and then using intelligent tip targeting to surface that right savings tip, knowing what we know about the customer because of their engagement with Glendale, and then helping them take that next savings tip. So I can't speak for the rest of the company on how we're deploying artificial intelligence and other applications, but it is very much part of our technology company.
Great presentation. Thanks for being here, and it's really nice to get some new faces and outside voices at our meetings, so thank you for doing that.
Thanks for having me.
We love hearing from GWP staff, but we also love hearing from people working all over the world with these kinds of technologies, so I'm really happy that we're doing this. One thing you shared that I thought was really great was this customer audit where you get a little more information about what's going on in a customer's home. In preparation for this meeting, I logged in and I hadn't looked at my Oracle dashboard in a while, and I realized it was wildly out of date, and it didn't reflect that I had swapped out my water heater from gas to a heat pump in that case, and some other things. So I'm wondering, how does the technology, or how do we as an organization keep track of those things? Is it entirely self-reported by customers? Do we pick any of that up from AMI data? How do we do that? Because it seems like that's really important.
Yes, great question, thank you. So as it relates to energy and use disaggregation, we do have a lot of models that we have deployed over the last 15 years of delivering O-Power software as a service. And a lot of those algorithms were built on heating and cooling to disaggregate end use. And while customer data is the best data, in our opinion, right, to get customer feedback, we do leverage energy disaggregation to a certain degree to help surface some of those end use. And then once the customer completes the audit, we would override any of the discrepancies because energy disaggregation is not perfect. And so we want to override it with the customer inputs. As it relates to understanding purely based off of meter data, we can only disaggregate based off of the meter data we have from Glendale Water and Power. So unfortunately, since gas is delivered by a different utility, we wouldn't have access to that data to marry it into the same portal experience.
Does O-Power also work with the gas company?
We work with many gas companies.
But the one that serves Glendale, the SoCal Gas? Okay. Is there any MOU to be worked out or cooperation so that if we saw a commensurate drop in gas usage at a particular customer address and an increase in electric usage, that maybe the algorithm could figure out that, hey, maybe this customer just switched out their appliance or something like that?
We have had several conversations with customers, regulatory teams. We have our own regulatory team that works with the Public Utilities Commission as well across the state of California and the country. Customer privacy data and what could we potentially do to engage customers to get that information, because of course sharing data across service territories is quite challenging. And the best at this point is the customer to engage and provide that insight. And so I think, I'm not sure if you completed your audit survey, but I do believe we did include a question in there around your heating type. And so incorporating that back in to that experience is how we're approaching it today, but I'm sure that will evolve over time.
Yeah, the survey was that I did a couple days ago was more precise than I recall it being the first time I signed up a few years ago. So
Okay,
I think
great.
you guys have captured that. But I'm probably one of the more engaged users, and if I had been sitting around not updating my home energy profile for however long, I'm guessing most people aren't. So would it be possible for GWP to share data about customers who have, say, gotten paid a rebate for implementing an electric water heater? Could we send that data to you and you update a customer's profile with that?
Absolutely.
Because I think the home energy reports are rather misleading if they don't properly account for a customer's profile, right? So I was getting, you're using way more energy than your neighbors, and it's like, well, it's because I'm heating my house with electricity instead of gas, right? So if there's something we can do to clear that up by sharing data that we have about our customers to make your reports more effective, please let us know.
Absolutely, we can work through that.
Okay, great. Do you know what percentage either GWP customers or in general have done that proactive step of updating their profile, their home profile?
It's a great question. I don't have the percentage offhand, but I do know we work with the marketing team to make sure that we're running promotions through all of the communications to drive more customers to the web portal to complete that audit. It's just another tool to get customers more engaged. So we could follow up with that percentage for you.
Yeah, that would be great to know, and I think that would be a good KPI to track as saying, let's drive that percentage higher. And I think the reason for all of this is because our business is getting more complicated. 10 years ago, the message was use less electricity. Like that's what doing a good job looks like. But today, with our broader climate goals, we actually want customers to use more electricity in some cases at certain times of the day and for certain things, right? And instead of a car that burns fossil fuel, we want you to drive a car that uses electricity, right? And since there's limits on the disaggregation technology, I think that whatever we can do to get more accurate picture of what our customers have in their homes and their driveways would be really helpful. Does that data, that customer profile, does that live solely within the Oracle? Or are we able to, can you export that to share with GWP staff if we wanted to learn more about our customers that way?
It's actually available on demand to the staff at any point in time. There's a utility-facing dashboard that has all the engagement metrics from a digital standpoint for both outbound and web, as well as completions from the home energy audit.
That's great. Okay, so we'll talk about how we can take advantage of that. The customer journey that you identified for solar customers, I think that's amazing. That's really great because it is such a fundamental shift in energy usage. Are there similar plans or things on your roadmap around, hey, you just bought an electric car, here's what you can expect, hey, you just installed an induction range, here's, what do you think about these other kind of major loads that customers might implement?
Yeah, great question. Our product team has been putting forth a lot of thought, research and development related to beneficial electrification, especially here in the West and California being a leader, and how might we continue to engage consumers after or even before they purchase an electric vehicle. So for example, you saw on the home energy audit that customer identified that they are charging an EV at home. So then it's disaggregating, and there's a drop-down menu that would promote any type of electric vehicle charging program in the future, or encouraging them to charge in the evening when rates are lower. And so that's something we continue to collaborate with Glendale and all of our utility partners around, what are your programs looking like? What's your rate design? And how can we incorporate that into our behavioral messaging to kind of coach that customer through the journey? Electric vehicles are really the top of mind for most folks, for us and our utility partners at this point in time. And then I'm sure that will continue to evolve longer term to heat pump water heaters.
Great. Well, please keep us in mind as a partner for pilot projects or things like that. I think that in a previous report from our staff, we found that we don't have great knowledge of who's buying an electric car. We don't get, some notification from DMV that someone in Glendale just bought an electric car, right? That would be super helpful if you could give us that information because some customer opted in or indicated something on their profile. Now we can send them, hey, would you like a free level 2 charger, or would you like an off-peak charging discount? I think kind of cross-promoting these things is really, really effective.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the last question I had was around something I saw on the webpage when I was poking around is the green button. And I was able to download some mind-boggling spreadsheet of my own electricity usage. What do you do with that? Does anyone actually do anything useful with that? Is it just, hey, this is available? Why is that there, and why would a customer want to look at that?
Yeah, great question. We enabled that several years ago. I can't even remember how many years, but specifically by request from our utility partners. Some of it was regulatory driven to give customers access to their data so that they could share it with contractors they're working with. It really started with the solar industry, right? Because the solar contractors want to know what is a customer's energy consumption so they can right size the right rooftop solar system. And so now customers can download that data and have access to it. It's available across all of our deployments, across all of our residential customers, so.
No, I think it's great, and I'm wondering if we might take it a step further. Instead of me logging in and clicking the green button, if I could just, opt in to say, please share my green button data in real time with this third party, some energy services company or some other, entity. Is that something that you guys have the capability to do or would consider?
We actually have a partner network of software providers that we partner with, and there is a software provider out of the Bay Area that does just that, and handles all of the legalities associated with sharing customer level data to third parties.
Okay, so if it's my data and I choose to share it, and the technology would enable me to do that?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Quick question for you. For those people that are not getting email notifications or whatever, where do they go to sign up to start getting email notifications?
Good question. Thank you. So we need to have a customer's email on file in order to send the email communications. And as soon as a customer provides their email in their account profile, they're automatically enrolled in the Proactive Alerts program for the high bill alerts as well as the weekly energy updates. And then Glendale has the opportunity to manage the customer preferences on how customers then submit their profile, and then the communications are automatically sent.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I had one more. So the federal government is showering money at people to upgrade their homes to make them more energy efficient or electrify appliances and things like that. You guys have a national footprint, so what is O-Power doing to help customers take advantage of those things? Can you see any artifacts in the data about customer usage that says, oh, you would be a great candidate for this, and you may get a $3,000 tax credit from the federal government? What I'm driving at is we put out a lot of money as incentives to try and get our customers to do the right thing. We can leverage the federal money and help our customers get free money from the government, which is always a good thing. So you guys have any plans or work in progress around that?
Great question. As I mentioned earlier, we have a quite an extensive regulatory team that works in our department and with our utility partners in helping to submit GRIP papers for the last round of funding. Our focus is really to support our utility partners and how do they access that money for their clean energy plans. And then as how we communicate with the customer, we see our role as promoting the programs by which our utility partners have invested in developing for their communities that they serve. And so we will put up and drive traffic to any type of page of programs and services you're offering as you develop them.
So if we thought it was a priority to help our residents take advantage of these federal programs, your communication tools could help us target them with those messages?
Correct.
Great. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I think we're ready for the next speaker.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Next, we have Kyle Brighton and Katie Pearson from Franklin Energy.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Kyle Brighton. I work for Franklin Energy. I am a program manager and I operate the Peak Savings Program. With me today is Katie Pearson, back there. She is a senior client marketing manager at Franklin, and she works on the program as well and manages the majority of our customer outreach. So starting off to discuss the program, I'd like to give just a quick overview of what the program is and how customers participate, as well as what they experience by participating in the program. So starting with the program itself. The program was designed to deliver flexible load management or a flexible load management resource to Glendale's energy procurement team. So what we essentially do is we are finding ways to reduce energy consumption during those critical peak load moments. Customers participate through two channels. We have a residential program where customers can enroll their smart thermostat, and it will manually help support our efforts to reduce the load management. And then our commercial customers can also participate, where we will provide them with recommendations how to manually reduce their load during events. So starting off with those channels, residential, there's 3 ways customers can participate. They can purchase a thermostat from our online marketplace and then enroll it. They can also enroll an existing thermostat. We call that BYOT, bring your own thermostat. And of late, we've actually launched a multifamily program, which allows us to serve the vast number of renters in the community who may not be enticed to buy a thermostat and put it in a home that they may be moving out of or they don't own. With our C&I customers, we service large commercial buildings as well as small and medium stores, and the recommendations we provide for that manual effort will vary based on the size of the building as well as the opportunity they have there. And I'll touch on that in just a minute. So starting with the residential side and how we get customers to engage, our general outreach is driven by email marketing, which is centered around manufactured promotions. So we want to drive customers to the marketplace and offer them the best deal possible to purchase a thermostat and then enrollment. Manufacturers on the vast majority of thermostats we offer will run those promotions throughout the year. And on the left there is an example of our current calendar. We also leverage social media, Google search ads, and other areas such as direct mail in the past to get customers engaged as well. Looking at the devices that can participate, we have a number of devices both offered on our marketplace as well as devices customers can enroll themselves if it's already on the wall. We are continuing to expand our offering on our marketplace as we found the more products we can offer, the better, the more engaged customers might be willing to have to try a new device, or maybe they have an older device that's set by a specific manufacturer they're looking to upgrade. So customers, why do they participate? Besides just the good of reducing energy consumption when we need it most, there is incentive for them. So starting with the marketplace, whenever customers purchase and enroll a device off our marketplace, they receive an instant $100 rebate on their thermostat. This, coupled with manufactured promotions, at times can offer customers a free smart thermostat with just the cost of shipping. So you can get a smart thermostat and upgrade for very minimal cost, which is enticing to a lot of customers. Additionally, customers who enroll through any channel receive an annual incentive of $50 for every year they're in the program. For those customers that already have an existing smart thermostat and don't need to purchase one, we offer as well an additional $50 incentive when they enroll in the program, which gets paid out within the first month of their enrollment. For our multifamily program, this isn't listed as it is new. We are currently offering free thermostats for customers that enroll, and we actually do the installation ourselves. So we are going out of our way to find these customers, engage with these properties, and do all the labor for them to get their customers enrolled. So eliminating the barriers that a renter may have about not knowing about the program or wanting to invest in a home once again that is not theirs. So what do customers experience during an event? Before the event, customers will receive a notification notifying them that an event is scheduled and when it will start on that date and time. 1 hour prior to the event, specific devices will actually pre-cool the home. So if your current temperature is set to 78, it may adjust it down to 77. So it will cool your home in preparation for the actual event. During an event, your thermostat's gonna do the opposite. It's gonna adjust upwards by a few degrees. So if you're at that 78-degree mark and it pre-cools to 77, your thermostat's gonna adjust anywhere from 80 to 82 degrees. After an event, your thermostat's gonna return to normal and it will go back to your pre-scheduled. So once again, using that 78-degree margin, it will default back to that temperature. Customers are allowed to opt out of the program up to 2 times before they lose that annual incentive. If you purchased off our marketplace or if you rolled a thermostat that was already existing and you opt out 2 times, you will not lose that incentive, but we will potentially work with you to figure out what is the root cause of why you are opting out. For our C&I customers, we engage them slightly different. For residential customers, marketing or email marketing tends to be our biggest driver for participation. With C&I, we do a lot of direct outreach. So we are physically calling these customers, trying to get in touch with chief engineers or other people that can have the biggest impact on the program to get them enrolled and educated on the program. When we find someone who is interested and engaged and wants to learn more and potentially participate, we go out on the site and we're gonna walk that site and provide those recommendations. Those could be a number of things such as you don't use lights in the downstairs after 4 p.m., maybe shut all those off, maybe adjust the temperature, refrigeration efforts to reduce the temperature for a few hours, different recommendations based on the site specifically. If customers agree to enroll, they will already have their recommendations. We're gonna enroll them in what we call a test event. So they'll basically participate in that first event and we'll get an understanding of what their reduction capabilities are. From there, we're gonna sign them up for a commitment goal. And then based on their performance going forward, they're actually gonna earn financial incentive on how they perform to their commitment goal. Now, on that bottom line there, you will see an asterisk. We are in process of reimagining our incentive goal and no longer penalizing customers for how they perform to that commitment goal, but solely paying them for how they perform, regardless if it's overachieving or underachieving. We wanna make sure that we are motivating customers the right way to participate and save as much as they can during these events. So similar to the residential event, C&I customers are gonna get a notification prior to the event. Because there's a smaller number of these customers as well, when we work with them, we may set up text message, call notifications. It will be a little bit more personalized because we have such a smaller number of enrolled buildings. And there is that manual aspect. We do need to work with them and continually provide recommendations to ensure they're getting the most value out of this and we're getting the most return for their efforts. As I mentioned during the event, they are going to implement behavioral changes, which are going to be the lights, the refrigeration, the thermostat. So they are truly in power of their own outcome. After event, we're going to share the results of what they produced and work with them again if they're not hitting that commitment level that they originally signed up with, try and figure out why that is and how we can better assist them to get to that goal. I just want to spend 1 minute looking at a forecast and goals that we had started with our scope of work. The big thing to take away here is going to be the bottom row, which is our total KW under control. So this is a compounding goal. So each year we look to add anywhere from 2 to 3.1 megawatts with the final goal at 2024 at 10 megawatts. This is captured with above data showing the number of thermostats we assume we need to install and enroll in the program to get those residential goals, as well as the number of commercial businesses we need to get to that level of goal. So now we're going to spend just a quick minute talking about metrics and seeing where we're currently at. So starting with residential thermostats, the table on the left is going to show our marketplace sales per quarter. Now, as you can see, as we've progressed, there has been noticeable market saturation. Because of this, that was one of the driving factors that has launched us into the multifamily space. As was discussed earlier, there is anywhere from 22 to 24,000 residential site homes, but there's a large number of renters in this area, and we want to make sure that they can still participate and they can still invest in their home at little cost for them. So in Q4, we started our multifamily offering, which is still ramping up and being adjusted and really evolving. And we hope to hit the ground running in Q4 to really drive the new implementation that benefits both customers as well as properties. That was the big disconnect during the launch, was finding a way to benefit both in a cost-effective manner. On the right there is going to show our enrollments through channel. As you can see, multifamily is slowly picking up, and our BYOT channel continues to be one of our more effective avenues as the marketplace dies down. We have combated market saturation with other offerings such as a professional install service. So we are now offering customers to not only buy thermostats from our marketplace, but come out and help install it for them for a very minimal fee. Looking at C&I enrollments. So there is great fluctuation in our commercial participation. Part of what drives this is larger companies can produce multiple sites. So if you think of a large Amazon, Warner Brothers, they'll have multiple buildings on site. So when they enroll, generally that chief engineer will enroll multiple sites. So we are participating 5, 6, 7 buildings at a time, which will drive up participation. Whereas if you look at some of the lower months, we may be only enrolling single units, mom and pop stores, smaller participants, where it's harder because you're having to spend a lot of time to engage each customer and get them to enroll. We did launch last year for the end of the year an enrollment bonus, which did help us significantly with the smaller mom and pop stores and re-engaging them. And we look to expand upon that going forward. Additionally, when you look at Q1 this year, we did focus our efforts on the multifamily launch, which took away some of our direct outreach efforts for commercial buildings. So we continue to do our email marketing, but once again, our most effective tactics have been contacting the properties directly and site visits to get in front of the right person. Finally, looking at a recap of event performance in 2022. Since we are in event season now, I wanted to give a full picture of last year. You can see there is volatility based on when events are called and the other factors that contribute to that. So on 9/5, for example, it was a holiday where our residential participation was very successful, but a lot of times commercial businesses may have been closed down, chief engineers may have been off for the holiday, so we didn't have anyone on site to implement those changes we needed to really drive savings, given it is a manual factor. Additionally, as you can see, the variance between our top producing events and our lowest is vast. So there is a slight unpredictability about this. We do have customers that are allowed to opt out, as I mentioned, twice a year and still qualify their incentive. That does vary as customers may opt out mid-event, and we're not necessarily able to capture how well they produced or didn't produce. We are just going to get the total savings of that event, which potentially could be a negative impact. If they opt out 2 hours in, their total KW reduction may only reflect the total of the event. On that note, I'm going to hand it off to Katie Pearson. She's going to discuss our marketing efforts.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you. So earlier this year, we did basically a research study to understand participation. So participation in the program has been significantly lower than what we had projected, almost 66%. A lot of assumptions have been made around that this last year, but we really wanted to understand from the customer's perspective why they were not participating. We wanted them to answer some outstanding questions about market saturation, general interest, marketing messaging, and customer satisfaction. To do this, we incentivized the survey with two $250 Visa gift cards, and we were pretty successful. So we had almost a 10% participation in the survey. This went out to about 50,000 customers. So almost 88,000 customers participated, 5,617 completed the survey, and 2,125 partially completed the survey. Of those, 76% have heard of the program. That's a great positive. 37% of those were current participants. 62% were not participants. I'm going to get into those people in a moment. 50% of them were homeowners and 49% of them were renters. So what this does is it really reinforces the data that there is a high number of multifamily homes in the Glendale area, but there's also still customers out there to enroll. Additionally, of these, 91% understood that they had to enroll in the program. So the messaging is working. They know that if they purchase a thermostat, they have to enroll. They know that if they have a thermostat in their home, they have to enroll it in order to be in the peak savings program. We also asked those customers who are not enrolled in the program if they had a thermostat or if they didn't have a thermostat. 22% of those did not have thermostats. I'm sorry, that's backwards. 22% do have thermostats, 58% do not have thermostats. 40% of those were renters. 18% of those people did not want GWP to control their thermostats. All of this, we identified basically 6 problems to solve. I'm going to walk you through each one of these problems, the survey results, and the recommendations. So one of the problems that we wanted to look at was marketing messaging, or customers understanding the messaging that we were giving to them. So various messaging had been tested throughout the year, including focusing on the incentive amounts, so the $50, the $100 off the thermostat. We also targeted messaging on lowering your electricity costs and helping the environment. And we really wanted to focus on the benefit of using a smart thermostat. We also targeted specifically BYOTs and renters with marketing messaging. What the survey results told us was that the top motivators were lowering their electricity bill, insight into their energy use, and the $50 annual incentive. The renter top motivator was lowering the electricity bill, keeping electric prices lower for everyone, and reducing electricity use. So the recommendation from this was to shift messaging from the focus on the incentives to focus on lowering the electricity bills and the environmental friendliness. This message shift happened in June of this year. July has been our best month of sales on the marketplace and BYOT enrollments. The other problem we wanted to solve was cart abandonment. So our assumption, the cart abandonment on the Glendale Water and Power Marketplace was 81% compared to 60% for the other marketplaces that Franklin Energy runs across the US. So we wanted to understand if there was something in this process that was stopping customers from moving forward, from putting a thermostat in their cart to purchasing it. 605 or 16% of the customers came to the website with an intent of purchasing and did not. And the top 3 reasons were they noticed that the discount was only applied if they registered for the peak savings program, their HVAC system was not compatible, or they didn't want to commit to enrolling in the program at the time. So the recommendation there from our team was, let's review the language around enrollment while purchasing on the website to identify any opportunities to make this more clear. And again, that took place in June, and since then, enrollments have been up. The other problem to solve was incentive amounts. So our assumption going into this was maybe $50 was not going to be enough. The median household income in the Glendale area is $70,000 with the median property value around $821,000. We didn't know if $50 was going to be an enough amount to for the time to enroll and participate, and the inconvenience of your home getting warmer during the peak days. In the ranking of motivators, the incentive amount was neutral to high. So for non-participants, the only 9% of them said that the annual incentive wasn't enough for me. So really the recommendation was that the $50 really was enough for these customers. We didn't feel like we needed to move it up. Currently, we are recommending to keep that the same, and that the value proposition comes from the benefit messaging. The next problem to solve was the renters versus homeowners. So Glendale has a sort of disproportionate number of renters versus homeowners, and the national average is kind of flip-flopped. The number of renters in the Glendale area is about 60%. It's like 66% to 33% homeowners, whereas the national average is the complete opposite. The survey results said that it was about 50-50, but 39% of the non-participants said they were renters and not allowed to install smart thermostats in their home. And this really influenced our shift to the multifamily program and what Kyle's doing with the manufacturers to help get thermostats into the multifamily properties. We use this survey data to do some additional outreach towards multifamily customers who were interested in the program. We did do some direct email marketing to them, letting them know about the program and that they can enroll. The other problem to solve was not enrolling purchase thermostats. So we wanted to understand why customers were coming to the website, the marketplace, and buying thermostats and not enrolling them. So of the survey participants, 62 of them had purchased thermostats and not enrolled them. And the top 3 reasons were they got them in their home and they needed somebody professional to help them install them. It happens. I would need somebody. They didn't understand the instructions, and their HVAC was not compatible. So the recommendation was to offer a coupon to customers for a professional installation, and then running a professional installation discount promotion. So we are currently running a professional installation promotion on the marketplace that if you purchase a thermostat, you get professional installation for $100 off. This also, customers are given this opportunity. We send them 3 reminders after they purchase their thermostat that they do need to enroll in the peak savings program, and on that second email they are offered free installation. And then the other problem to solve was bring your own thermostat enrollment. So it was really important to understand the saturation of customer homes that had thermostats and they were not enrolling, and we wanted to understand why. So almost 62% of the customers that participated in the survey had thermostats in their home. No, 62% are not currently in the program. 22% of those have smart thermostats in their home. Sorry, lots of numbers. And the reasons why: they're renters, they didn't know about the program, or they don't want people to controlling their thermostat. These results, again, reinforced the need for the multifamily program. And there's a small subsection of customers who didn't know about the program, although 76% did. We did some additional outreach at the time of the survey to these customers, letting them know about the benefits of the program. And then we looked at the messaging of the demand response program and edited it to be more customer friendly. So I talked about a lot of next steps, and this is what all of those look like recapped. So the results proved that the shift to multifamily was the correct direction. And one of those action items for us was to market to customers who had already identified they had a smart thermostat. We contacted properties without smart thermostats to provide them with a path to participate in the program. We shifted messaging from the focus on incentive levels to lowering electricity bills and environmentally friendliness. This led us to focus lead generation emails to environmentally focused. We looked at the language around enrollments while purchasing on the website. We also targeted 257 customers that had not heard about the program, but took time to take the survey with a clarifying enrollment email. We're keeping the $50 enrollment and annual incentive the same. We're offering the professional installation, and we're looking at the messaging for the demand response aspect of the program to be more customer friendly. So next steps for both of the programs. For the C&I program, we're issuing an enrollment bonus. So any new customers will be able to receive an enrollment bonus this year. We're increasing the incentives, and we're removing the penalty structure. For residential, we're targeting the multifamily effort. We're targeting multifamily, and we're increasing the product diversity. That is it.
Let's start on the slide now. Any questions?
Sure.
Commissioner Fay?
Thanks for the presentation. One thing that you guys didn't mention was about the timing of the incentive. And from my experience as a participant in this program and other similar ones, I find that the timing may be more important than the value. And I think there's a lot of behavioral economics and just kind of human behavior literature that suggests people have a pretty high discount factor, and what would I do today for $50 a year from now is different than what I do today for $2 right now, right? Have you guys explored that at all, or thought about how you might change the program to make the reward more immediate for participants?
Yeah, good question. We have not necessarily looked at doing the annual incentive. One of our fears has always been if you give that immediate annual incentive for participating, they can opt out at any time. But with the multifamily program particularly, it is bringing almost that marketplace offering to them. So they're getting that thermostat for free and finding other ways to get that incentive on the thermostat for people that don't currently have it. One thing we have work to do as we've built our pipeline is expedite BYOT enrollments to get their incentives earlier. It's not going to be same day, but generally how that works is people are waiting a month before that incentive is issued out, and then it's in the mail. Because of the volume we have, we are now able to kind of batch those incentive invoices more regularly to get them at a faster pace.
Yeah, I would encourage that. What we saw as a transition in our off-peak EV charging program, that vendor was able to change their essentially reconciliation so that customers get paid, I think it's monthly or quarterly instead of annually. That makes a big difference. And I would say, maybe check and see if you can push a little farther and say, hey, you successfully participated in an event. Here's $5. Thank you, right? It looked like there's about 10 events per year in a typical year. So even if we don't change the value, if I got a text message that said, hey, thanks for doing your part, here's $5, that would be a lot more impactful to me than, oh, how many times have I opted out? And, did my kid touch the thermostat? I don't know. It's just kind of muddy. So I would encourage you guys to check into that. And I think we would be happy to participate as guinea pigs for trying out some kind of new model for those incentives. So if there's an opportunity to do that, please let us know. The complaint that renters are not allowed to install smart thermostats, is there any truth to that?
I think it's a customer education piece. I think it's more of an assumption versus the actual tenant going to the property or the landlord and asking for that permission. So I don't want to say there's no validity into it, but I think the assumption is that there is an educational piece that we need to remove that barrier. So how we're trying to accomplish that is working with properties directly and basically getting the property manager to sign off and then having us come on behalf of the property or with the maintenance manager to give us that credibility and say, hey, this is 100% above board. We can do this for you and there's no risk to you whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. And I wonder if there's a role maybe for GWP staff or our city attorney to just get a straight answer. Is there any legal issue with a renter installing a smart thermostat? Is that any different than hanging curtains or putting in furniture in an apartment or something like that?
President Jasmine Derry and commission members, it would be, as you indicated, Commissioner Fay, just like any other installation, it's subject to the lease contract, the rental contract. If the property owner, property manager gives consent, then the renter could install it. So the education goes to the property manager and the owner to let them know that this is a good program. It's not going to be harmful. It's not going to hurt the property. And that way, the tenant then is allowed to participate and everybody benefits.
Yeah, I think anything we can do to remove those barriers or empower someone who's excited about participating but feels like they hit a roadblock with their jerk landlord doesn't want them to do it. Let's give them some tools to be successful.
Yeah, and we have been working with the GWP staff on building an incentive that is both, as you alluded to, property friendly as well as tenant friendly. Our original launch was really focused on getting the tenants enrolled and highlighting the thermostat they get, but it was really subject to participation based off enrollment. So when you think of a whole property, not everyone's going to enroll, which means not everyone's getting a thermostat, which means the property is generally not happy because they want everything updated. So we are working to eliminate that barrier and be able to fully retrofit properties. So regardless of enrollment status, the property still comes out ahead and the tenants do, and we think that's also going to drive enrollment participation.
And then one more about devices. I know this has really been about thermostats, but for some kind of newer class of smart window air conditioners that have their own internal thermostat, have you worked with any of those or any of those on the roadmap to incorporate control of those units?
Not at this time, but we are exploring all the new technology that's coming out. I will say most of our exploratory knowledge is around C&I, since that is behavioral and trying to find things like you alluded to that small businesses can utilize that will help kind of take that behavioral aspect out of it that we're not necessarily controlling. But right now with the residential, it is primarily just the thermostats that we've looked at this point.
I think there's something we're always trying to be conscious of, which is as we're giving away money, we want to make sure it's distributed fairly and evenly. And I think a lot of our programs favor people who have more personal agency over changing things in their house, and those are single family homeowners. So if we can have a program to help people who rely on a window air conditioner, and those are probably renters or people who don't have central air, I think that would be really great. So I'm aware of one brand, Windmill. I installed one recently, and I can control the window air conditioner from my phone. I'm sure there are many others that do the same thing, and they're probably able to receive signals from your system as well. So maybe that's something we could look into as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So I had a question as a follow-up to Commissioner Fay's. And it's more towards the city attorney's office. Can city council pass an ordinance which basically prohibits a landlord from being a jerk and saying, no, you can't install a thermostat even if we want to?
Commissioner Kadikian, that's an excellent question. I'm not a landlord-tenant specialist, so I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. I would assume that I would infringe on private property laws, but that's just my assumption. I don't think such an ordinance would be held constitutional, but I could be wrong. I don't know, but that's something we can look into.
Or if it's regulated at the state level as a real estate type thing, maybe we could sponsor a bill to, either make it statewide or give cities the ability to make this ordinance or something like that.
Yes. Yes, Commissioner
I'd
Fay.
be interested in that, too.
Yes, if
Yeah.
it was at the state level and if it was a mandate that the cities passed an ordinance to implement to the best of their ability a state regulation or requirement, that would be different. But that's a great question, and
Well, I mean, I'm not sure about the capacity of this board, but maybe we can, later on, when we come to new item, agendize this as a suggestion that we can vote on and then pass it on to city council, and city council could decide whether it's worth putting the legal time on it to see if it's something that could be done, or maybe rise it up. So we'll talk about it more during the new items, I guess.
sounds good.
How is the, how does the program work with regard to the thermostat settings? I mean, one person may like their house at 68 and you raise it to 72 and that's a big thing for them. And obviously another person might have it at 78 and go to 82. How are these things determined?
Yeah, good question. It varies on thermostat first and foremost. Some of them, we do have the ability to preset at the beginning of event season what that adjustment looks like. So we can't make it user specific. We can't say your home will only do 1 degree and your home will do 3. But it's that educational piece where we educate them on the device they have and what that expectation may be. But yeah, just circling back, we don't have the ability to control specific one-off units.
So you're saying that a Nest thermostat would have a different setting than a Honeywell?
Correct. The way we implement this is some of the thermostat providers and the manufacturers actually allow us through our system to control what that event season looks like. They may give us parameters to work within, where other ones, they control it. It's through their system. So you may see Nest has a rush hour reward program, which is essentially a part of what we do, as well as Ecobee as Ecobee Plus, where they may come in and they may say, you are within our constraints, where any DR program that uses our devices are going to have to do have the same parameters as everyone else. It's always going to be 3 degrees or 4 degrees based on the manufacturer.
Okay. Is there any ability to share information between the different programs of GWP? Like you guys are installing thermostats, you've got other people. I mean, you're trying to get in touch with the customers. If they've installed solar, such as Commissioner Fay, and you know, maybe you've got a mom and pop that has taken advantage of the lighting program, is there a way for you guys to get this information so you know you've got somebody who has, you know, is interested in saving electricity?
Yeah, I'd say yes and no. We do get information provided from GWP itself, so they may provide usage data, other factors like that that can indicate if something's been done. They also have worked to help promote other programs and see if we can collaborate to get that specific data. But from what we currently do outside of that survey that Katie alluded to, we don't have a clear-cut way of getting that information if a customer has made specific updates at this time.
Mark, wouldn't that be couldn't that be helpful to these folks? I mean, if to know that somebody's participated in another program?
I think so, but I think that's the coordination of a teenage group with Franklin themselves. So I think a teenage group would actually provide that information.
Yes, if they ask us for the data, then we can provide it if we have it in our system. So if we track, let's say they want to know how many customers purchased a thermostat and applied for a rebate outside of their marketplace, then we can provide that information to them if that's what they would like to know.
Right.
Yeah.
The reason I ask is because your C&I numbers seem to be real challenging. And, you know, there's been a tremendous amount of businesses that have participated in some of the other programs, such as the direct install and the lighting. And, I mean, I would think that they should be going to all those people that have already participated.
I agree, but we got to keep in mind that there's 78,000 residential meters, there's 300 industrial, and there's 700 commercial. So you can see that there's a huge difference between C&I and residential. This is truly a bedroom community.
Right. But I mean, according to your graph, I mean, there were quarters when you installed like 40 thermostats. And it just seems like, you know, you really need some, you know, to get a leg up with some of these different markets.
And one thing we have done with CNI specifically is we have reached out and worked with Glendale to ask for new meters that come online. So looking for new businesses that pop up, that maybe that incentive is going to be what really helps them in a time where profitability is not relevant or not present. So we are looking at utilizing some data to that capacity, but it's not as in-depth as you alluded to, right, with do they have solar, things like that.
Just following up on the one question, I still don't understand. Each homeowner or each resident can go ahead and set the base level for their thermostat, and then what you would control, or based on the manufacturer, would be what the range would be. So how much it would go up if you have an event, and how much you would drop it as a pre-cooling prior to that. But the base level is defined by the resident.
Yeah, absolutely, you're spot on there. So we work with generally, depending on the thermostat device, during an event, that adjustment will be 2 to 4 degrees from that preset base. So the customer, we have seen this in the past where a customer may participate and they generally cool to 78 and they go, wow, 82, there's no way I can keep doing this. And they'll call us and we'll overcome those unenrollment barriers by letting them know, you know, this is based off what your baseline setting is. If it is too hot during an event, you know, maybe you look to drop it another degree just for the event. It doesn't help us in terms of getting the maximum kW reduction we want, but if we can still achieve anything versus getting that customer to unenroll, it is something we definitely recommend for them.
So that's a self-reported, when they sign up, they say, this is my base level that I...
They don't even have to report that. Yeah, it's all tied into their thermostat, so we have no knowledge of what their setting is whatsoever unless they contact us, which generally is going to be because they're too warm during an event.
So you don't even know what the base level is, in a sense. All it does is just send out a signal to the device that ratchets it up 3 degrees or whatever.
Correct. Okay. On an individual device level, we won't know what that is, but we are using meter data to develop our baseline to track at our actual reduction during that event.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I had couple of follow-up questions. With regards to, before we start regulating and try and regulate, is there a problem? Are you getting feedback from renters saying, my landlord's just not working with me, or something to that extent? Is there a problem?
No, that's a great question. We are not, and part of it is through our marketing channel. You know, we are doing mass email marketing to these renters, and it's hard to be specific to just renters. It's more of a community outreach to all the residential meters. So getting that feedback outside of the survey results, it's really hard unless the customers contact us. Okay. So we're going to continue to do those survey results and add additional levels to that, and that, you know, definitely could be one of them. It's also the timing of it, right? Making sure we're not surveying every other quarter.
So I think it's a good idea to focus your surveys with that idea in mind so that you can give us feedback, and if there is a problem, then maybe we can do something. We shouldn't regulate something if there's no problem. So yeah. Overall, so let's see first. I'll take that back. Let's see if there's a problem. Please report as soon as you can, whenever possible. If whatever problems you're reaching into, and we'll see what we can do about that. With regards to the baseline and increasing 2 to 4 degrees up or down, now you have no way of reading the smart thermostat as to on a hourly basis and saying, yeah, these people's baseline is 75 degrees or something. You don't have that capability?
No, so yeah, everything is tracked actually on a meter level, so it's by total consumption. So while this is a thermostat program, theoretically a customer could over participate by maybe they leave the house during an event. So not only is their thermostat ramping up and saving energy, but now their lights are off, their TV may not be on.
Well, I understand you can read the electric power. Yeah. You can't read the thermostat setting.
No.
So how do you change its setting up degrees up or down?
Yeah, so it's all done pretty much through the manufacturer itself in partnership with our demand response program, our energy management program. So Google may have that analytics, they're just not willing to share it with us. So there is some customer data privacy that the thermostats hold tightly, and we have looked to get that information. We just have not been able to get through the policies at the OEMs.
That's unfortunate, because if you have that information, then you can say, look, you let us up it by 4 degrees, we'll give you $50 rebate. You let us up it by 6 degrees, we'll give you $100 rebate. And then depending on the customer, even less, $20 rebate for 2 degrees or whatever.
Yeah, part of the issue as well is the OEMs, so the manufacturers, see these events as kind of part of their offering with their product. So they do regulate even on the devices where we can control how much we adjust the temperature. They put a cap on it. So to your point, right, if we were to say, leave your house and let's just up it by 10 degrees, the thermostat manufacturer would come in and go, wait, our peak savings program policy is no more than 4. So they would prevent us from potentially reaching those maximums as well.
Okay. Learning something every day.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a good idea though.
Thank you for the presentations. They were very good.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it. So next up,
Our next item is 4C, Wildfire Mitigation Plan.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm here to present the wildfire mitigation plan that GWP submitted back in July 1st, 2023. As you know, Glendale is in a wildfire risk zone, and we have a slide presentation here to show it. So this is our third version of our plan. It's updated annually. Every 3 years, we do a major review, and that's what happened this year. The methodology identifies the high fire risk zones in Glendale, and there's a Tier 2, Tier 3, and I can show that on the next slide in the map. So this is the area. It's got the different colorings of the areas that has a higher risk of wildfire. And the ones we focus on are Tier 2 and Tier 3. And by calculating the area, we can identify what our risks are, what our exposure is. And I have the numbers up here where it talks about the different risk 2 and 3 zones. To mitigate any wildfires, we've done different mitigation techniques. One of the techniques that we've used is completed the different projects in the Tier 2, Tier 3 areas. We've replaced 24 power poles in these high fire risk zones, replaced 12 transformers. Biggest is the 8,016 trees that we've trimmed in the area. And we've also installed fire-resistant poles and overhead conductors that are insulated. We've also inspected 71 power poles and 674 street lights. Here's 2 technologies that we use to mitigate wildfires is the covered conductor. You can see on the left, there's the bare conductor, and then we have the one with the insulation on it. We call that tree wire. It's made so that it comes in contact with trees and will not spark. The other thing is that we put poles that are hardened, and then we have the fire-resistant poles. We also use cross arms that are made of composite materials, which are stronger and would less likely be damaged over time. So some of the preventative strategies that we use is GWP's vegetation management program. We also do our patrols to make sure that vegetation isn't growing into the power lines. As part of our 4 to 12 kV conversion, we also do reconstruction, especially in the areas of high fire risk zones. Those ensure that the infrastructure will withstand and would not break and cause a wildfire. Implementation of new technologies, we're using falling conductor protection. This is a special protection for high voltage lines. We have one that goes across our Verdugo Mountain. We're installing that system this year, and it would de-energize the line before the conductor would touch the ground if it were to break. We also established more metrics to make sure that all the different work we're doing is lowering high fire risk zone area exposures. And our tree trimming program is our major component here. We talked about budgets on the previous presentations, our $2.8 million budget for trimming trees. We trim about 14,000 trees in Glendale in 2022. We also make sure that our vegetation management takes into account the GO 95 clearances. And as I said before, we've trimmed 8,016 trees in the Tier 2, Tier 3 fire zones. And here's a graphic example of where we would be trimming a tree that's growing into the higher voltage lines. The lower lines are communication lines. Those don't have any fire risks. And finally, our plans are reviewed by a third-party independent reviewer. In this case, we used Guidehouse, which used to be Navigant Consulting. That's a big energy infrastructure consulting firm. And these were the comments they gave us on our plan. And we're very proud of it, that it passed well from our third-party reviewer. And as I said, it was turned into the state under the Wildfire Safety Advisory Board, which is part of the California Office of Energy Infrastructure Safety. They used to be under the Wildfire Safety Division of the PUC, but in 2021, they were transferred to this new office, California Office of Energy Infrastructure Safety. So it's been submitted, and usually what happens is that since it was July 1st, we do get comments back. Each year, they sort of give us new standards, new requirements, new guidelines, and we incorporate that into our plans. So that's my presentation. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. I've seen the WCA people doing the tree trimming, and I assume that they're doing all the the majority of the tree trimming. As far as the other upgrades that you were just describing, is most of that done in-house by GWP, or is it subcontracted out?
So our 4 to 12 kV conversion, there's a lot of work. So our current staff mainly works on keeping the system going. We do some upgrades as well. But if we were to do the conversion in-house, it would take us 30, 40 years to finish. So we've hired a contractor to do this. We work with them. We're trying to do this entire 4 to 12 kV conversion within 10 years or less. So we're working with them.
And we do have in-house people doing one conversion, one feeder, so that they can stay up to it. But that would be taking them off any of the maintenance and any of the repairs that they would have to do. So most of it is through hotline, but we are trying to keep our staff in the process, or in the process of upgrading the 4 to 12.
Right. This is really, really hard work, and I commend the job that you guys are doing. If you just stop someday and watch the people working on the poles, or even doing the tree trimming, but when you look at the electrical work, it's darn hard work, and really appreciate that. I know this is probably, you were talking about the vegetation management, but and this is probably more the fire department, but gotta say I love the goats. They were on the hill behind my house.
Yes.
And again, that's some hard work, and they're doing it, and they weren't complaining, you know, I mean, it's really, really good to see when you look at, I mean, we're all looking at those dry mountains, and you look at right now what's happening out of Canada and the wildfires that they have, and looking at what that's doing to our environment and our air, and you know, it's obviously spilling into, you know, the northern United States, but it's really, really important to stay up on this stuff. So thank you very much for all of the work.
Thank you, sir.
Now that we have banned the Mylar balloons, is that working? And is that helping to reduce the likelihood of fires?
Yeah, in a way, yes, but in other ways, the other adjacent cities would have to adopt a similar ban to kind of help us out. So, you know, Mylars are still, squirrels and Mylars and birds are probably the highest causes of outages within Glendale. So, but I would have to look at it again. I did see a lowering, but it's funny, during graduation season, you get Mylar balloons coming on our lines, and that's most likely, and I know we don't sell it in Glendale, from adjacent cities. So until they adopt it, it's a little bit difficult to control.
So the new technologies, I would assume, such as the coated wires, would help mitigate that over time?
Yes, covered conductors would help with that. It just takes time to be able to convert the wires in the entire city, and that would take many years. But in the wildfire risk zones where we concentrate, we could then use those effectively to mitigate wildfires, because they would not start a fire in those areas.
Is our 12 kV conversion, does that increase our risk since it's going to increase the temperature?
So one of the things that happens when you increase the voltage from 4 to 12 kV, you can take 3 times the amount of power you can transmit. What you have to do is increase the distance between the conductors. Therefore, you lower the risk of something falling across it, because now the distance is greater. So it actually helps. So doing the 4 to 12 actually lowers the risk of wildfires.
Even as it increases the temperature? Of the
Even though
wires
it
itself?
increases the voltage, that's right.
Not only wildfires, but outages, right? So
Outages as well.
not just wildfires, but all outages. Since the wires are further apart, squirrels and birds have less of a chance of touching 2 wires at once.
Yeah, stuff falls through them.
And the last question is just sort of one of the banes of my existence when I was at GCC doing any kind of construction was, you know, trimming or removing any or relocating any trees. So we had to conform with all the bird nesting statutes and protected species, et cetera. How does Glendale GWP deal with 14,000 trees that you're trimming? I mean, it was just a major ordeal to get a arborist and a certified nest specialist to tell us that we could do it within certain months and everything.
Yeah, so there is the CPUC code, GO95. All utilities have to adhere to it, and that applies on our right-of-ways. So we do have the state laws that require us to keep the system cleared. So
So GWP has more latitude to, you're not bound necessarily by some of these. Okay.
Yeah, and, you know, they are careful. You know, there's something there that would have a environmental issue or endangered species, but generally we have to abide by GO95, which is the standard for the state, and all utilities abide by it.
Okay, thank you for helping understand that.
Thank you, Mr. Scorza. I don't have any questions.
Thank you, sir.
I just had one question. Are we doing anything from a marketing standpoint on the Mylar balloons? I know, yeah, I mean, as he says, we've got people bringing them in for, you know, parties from other areas, and I just wonder if there's anything that we can improve on there.
Well, every time we have an outage related to a Mylar, we make sure that we announce that it's related to a Mylar, because customers get really upset when it's Mylar related, because we have banned it, but we make an effort to educate at that point. And a lot of customers usually call when they see Mylars already dangling before it even causes an outage. And again, we've worked with all of the vendors in Glendale to ensure that the ban is still in place, that they're not selling them. As far as controlling them, we do encourage neighboring cities. They've asked for our information on how we went about on banning it in Glendale, and I know they're hoping to do the same. But in general, when we try to educate them, we notify them that their outage was caused by a Mylar, and we do a lot of education. We have a video that we've produced on how it happens, and it's gotten more than 11,000 views. And it's just constant education and reminders. And people react differently when it's a squirrel or a bird, but when it's a Mylar, they get really upset. So they actually are more proactive, and they do their part to ensure that they dispose of them correctly, and they call us when they see them.
So I assume that LA has no ban on Mylar balloons?
Not yet, no.
It's just really surprising when
No,
they have their own
Burbank
utility.
Burbank was trying, but.
Yeah, Burbank's
Burbank was
trying, I
looking
think.
at it, but LA not yet.
Commissioner Lowry, I think our neighboring cities and the Mylar issue are two issues. One is, I want to get a Mylar balloon for my child's birthday, and since Glendale doesn't sell it, I go to Pasadena, buy them, and bring them here. But more commonly, they're let go in Pasadena or Burbank or Eagle Rock, and they fly here. They eventually start to settle and they land here. So it's not just people bringing Mylar balloons to Glendale, it's people letting go of Mylar balloons anywhere in the vicinity that ultimately cause that problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on to the next item, oral communications.
Oral communications, discussion is limited to items not part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Commission may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. The general manager may refer the matter to the appropriate staff for investigation and report. We do not have any phone calls or cards.
Okay, thank you. So next item, agenda forecast.
I had some questions about things to put on the agenda, but I'd like to ask a couple of questions before we go in that direction, particular to our city attorney's office. So this board, I know it can't pass ordinances, that's city council's job, but could we require the staff of GWP to do something and present it to city council? Do we have that power?
President Jasmine Commission members, you could certainly adopt a motion with a recommendation that something be brought to the city council's, before city council for their consideration, discussion, approval, or denial. As long as it's related to GWP's operations, you could certainly ask the general manager to come back to you with a report. Agendize it as an action item and for the commission to adopt a motion. So that was the long answer. The short answer is yes. If it pertains to GWP's operations, you can ask the general manager to do a presentation for you before the commission, for the commission's consideration, and then a recommendation.
So the reason I was asking that question is with regards to outreach and getting budget for outreaches. I know it's difficult for departments in and by themselves to ask for money. Nobody likes people asking for money in general. So I was thinking if GWP passes some sort of a rule that requires our communication department to submit an estimate to city council for any project that requires an outreach, saying if there's an outreach that requires this, I'm not asking it, but GWP Commission made me do it, and according to what they make me do, if we're gonna do this outreach, we're gonna need this much money. Something that they would present to City Council. This way, not a single individual or department is standing up and sticking their head out for City Council to chop them off. they can always blame GWP Commission. So before we go in that direction, I don't know what's the procedure. Maybe staff could do a report and say that's something useful, not useful. Maybe they don't want to stick their head at that point even and say that's useful. I don't know.
So I will offer my thoughts and recommendations subject to Mr. Young chiming in, because this is just a high level. This is how I would recommend that the commission go about it with Mr. Young's blessing. The commission could perhaps inquire what levels of outreach can be conducted and how much such an outreach would cost, maybe. And the GWP staff does the research and presents a report. Mr. Young, please chime in if I'm totally off track and says, well, if you want this kind of an outreach, it's going to cost this much, and then perhaps make a recommendation.
I think what Commissioner Kadikian is trying to get at, and correct me if I'm wrong, is if we have a program or an item that's coming up to council, we need to make sure that we include outreach finances so that we can then go ahead and inform the community or interact with the community and not just look at the program as the base cost, but increase the budget to account for that community outreach. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's exactly it. I want to make sure there's enough budget for your department to get the outreach that needs to be gotten. Usually a contractor or whoever it is asking for something and he'll put some dollar figure to outreach they're going to do. I'm not too confident about whatever they're going to do because there's no way of tracking how much money they actually spent on that outreach. I'd rather that money go to our department here and our staff who are much more invested in this program and getting the outreach out. Because from a contractor's point of view, they want to do the outreach, but maybe they want to get 50 people in, get their feedback and move on and get their recommendation. But from our perspective, we want to get 500 people in and let the contractor deal with sorting out all that 500 responses and inputs. So that's why I'm thinking, and again, at the same time, I want to do it so that it doesn't become automatic. It's almost like automatic. If there's something like the IRP going on where they say, we're going to do community outreach, you automatically jump in and say, hey, community outreach for this kind of thing, we need this kind of money, okay? Just give it to city council, not necessarily something we hear about and then we remember, okay, let me ask, how much money do you guys need for this? Do a report, and then you do the report, and then you submit it, and it may be too late at that point. So I'm trying to pass some sort of an ordinance where you would say, GWP has forced us into presenting our outreach budget for this kinds of projects, and this is what we need. City council could say no, that's fine, but you do it, you're not sticking out your own heads, it's because we asked for it. That's the idea I'm trying to pass here.
I don't know how we can go ahead and do that, but I know that with that direction, I can make sure that anytime we need to have community outreach, there's a portion of the ask for that project to have a budget included. So, but I don't know how we would have an ordinance on.
Well, not an ordinance, but more like GWP rule for GWP.
It would be more of a motion recommending a designated budget. I agree with Mr. Young, it's a bit difficult to ascertain, how to come up with a blanket budget requirement just to refer to, if this is what you want to do, then it's going to cost us this much. If this is the level of outreach, it's going to cost us an X number of dollars additional, for example.
No, I mean, we're not trying to set the dollars from now. All I'm saying is the outreach department is required to do that and present it to city council for approval or denial, whatever the city council wants to do. All I'm trying to pass is mandate the outreach department to do the job and present it to city council. That's all I'm trying to do.
Another option the commission could have would be to adopt a motion mandating outreach for certain types of projects. That's what comes to mind right now. For example, as you indicated, Commissioner Kadikian, to have a motion, which would be adopting a motion, which would be in effect GWP Commission's policy, for lack of a better term, saying if you're going to engage in such and such project, then you need to do this type of outreach. If you're going to engage in another type of project, then you need to do another level of outreach. And then Mr. Young and his staff would look at the project once it's coming to fruition or near coming to fruition, and would calculate and say, well, the outreach that the commission wants me to do for this type of project, it's going to cost an X number of dollars.
And it has its own, budget numbers,
Yes.
right? This way we can identify it's specifically for outreach.
Right.
We can go ahead and do that.
Okay, so I'm gonna think about the right wording for it, and we'll come back later, and I'll talk to whoever I need to talk, but I was just trying to inquire. And maybe we can put it as an agenda item and 2 months 2 months later to discuss. By then I would have a little bit more proper wording, suggestions, and maybe I'll circulate something if it meets the Brown Act requirements or whatever.
I appreciate that, because I think the city manager's office is revamping their whole community outreach group.
Okay.
So that'd give me some time to actually see what they're doing and to try to incorporate this concept into a city-sponsored type of thing as opposed to just GWP specific. And that gives me a little bit of time to be able to go ahead and do that reach.
Okay, so maybe we can schedule something for that to be considered or discussed in October. We got a lot in October, maybe November?
Sure.
All right, what do I need to get that on the calendar, I guess?
You can make the request. If the commission agrees, if the president agrees, then it can be added to the calendar.
So I'm just basically making a request for the November meeting to have a discussion about setting special budgets for outreach programs related to GWP matters.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Vote?
Do we need a vote for it?
If everyone says aye, we're good.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you.
I'd just like to request clarification on the October meeting. What does verification of renewals mean?
I believe that's something that you had on your proposed forecast items back in April, maybe May.
I'm not recognizing those words, so maybe we can talk offline and
I can go ahead and,
we're speaking the same language.
yes. So I can
Okay.
go ahead and go back and take a look at the paper that you provided
Okay, thank
and
you.
then verify the information.
Do we want to proceed with the legislative suggestion that was made and add that to the agenda as well for having legislation introduced for tenants to be able to put in conservation devices? And I would suggest it be not only energy, but water conservation devices.
Well, the question I had asked was with regards to regulating if there's a problem. So I was trying to figure out if there is a problem. I'm always hesitant to start regulating things when there isn't a problem. And they didn't indicate clearly there was a problem. So that's why I said, okay, report back to me with any problems, and then we'll decide what we're gonna do. So that's why I didn't pursue that.
Perhaps we could have our GWP staff, broach it with the League of Cities and others and see, is this an issue other people are running into, and, get a better sense of if there really is a problem here.
Yeah.
Sure. And we'll stay abreast with Franklin to see if there's any roadblocks that they're starting to get into since this multifamily is a new concept that just happened over the last couple of months. We'll see if there's any roadblocks, and if there is, then we'll start that process if need be.
Perfect. So any other comments on the October agenda? Because I've got one. It's pretty heavy, the agenda, so I'm wondering if there's anything we can move to either November or December, just so we're not here till midnight.
How about the verification of renewals?
Yeah, I think that's,
I move that we postpone the verification of renewals.
and maybe we can move the water conservation to December, because by then we'll know if we're having a wet
I think that's a
fall or
great
not.
idea.
Is there anything else anyone would want to add on? Okay, I think we're done.
I guess I move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Aye. Thank you. Have a good night.